Welcome. I can see some people already around, and we appreciate that you're here in time. So, big dogs, let me give a round of applause to say welcome and receive the award for best in early arrival. So, welcome, Bolanle Oyewole. Welcome. Nice to meet you here. Welcome, David Ogumuyiwa. Welcome. Welcome, Eniola. Welcome, Olakpeju in Akokos. And welcome, Samuel and Testimony. So welcome, everyone. I guess we have to give some time for people to come in and, settle in. I understand this Saturday morning, some people are catching a break from yesterday's traffic if you're in Lagos, and if you're not, congratulations to you. I'm happy for you that you didn't have to face that type of traffic. Welcome, Emmanuel Jacobs. Welcome. So we'll just give some time for people to settle in and for people to also show up in class, and then we'll get started. We'll get started right away. Welcome, Naomi. Naomi, welcome. Welcome, Fisayomi Blessing. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome, Eno Peters. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're happy to have you here. So we'll just wait a bit for people to join in, and yeah, we'll take a conversation from there. Thank you, Samuel. Happy to have you here as well. Welcome, Eno. Thank you. Good to have you here as well. Okay. Okay, so while we're waiting for people to join in, I guess we can start to warm up towards the conversation for today, since already 4 minutes past 10, and I also want to respect our time so that we also have a good amount of time, engaging and having conversation that we need to have today. So welcome once again, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of Udemy's Leaders Meetup. Yay! I am very excited. Literally, we just said we're having conversations here, meeting very weird situations outside. We wanted to see if people had, you know, if it was just the customers we're working with, or there was a larger population of people who were experiencing people management issues, and how are they navigating such issues really. And so this is why we put it together. How can we have a melting point, right, where we can all have conversations, troubleshoot issues together, because really when it comes to managing people, there are many things that go wrong, there are many things that we get right, there are many things that we also get wrong, right? And how do we have perspective? And so the essence of the Udemy's Leaders Meetup is to have conversations around people management, the science, intuitive work. We also have to find a balance between using our intuition to lead people and also having systems and processes and structures in place that helps us to optimize performance, right? And so that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing today. So I'm very excited to have you all here. If you don't mind, if you can share with me, in the chats, where are you listening in from, or where are you joining in from? I don't want to assume that everybody's from Lagos here. I don't believe that everybody is listening in from Lagos today. I believe that there are people in different parts of Nigeria. Some people, I saw some registrations were from people who were not in Nigeria. So it would be nice to know where you're listening from. Okay, great, fantastic. Lagos, Jos, Abuja, awesome. Aba, wow. I'm loving the diversity here. Where else? Oh, your state, fantastic. Kwara, great. Okay, we have another Lagos. Okay, so we have a sizable number from different parts of Nigeria. So that's exciting to know, and it's exciting to see that, okay, yes, we have a good, let's see how we tackling these people matter all around this country. And I believe that more people will join as we get along. So to the meets, let's kick. I don't see a reason why we should not start. So when we all registered, right, either you watched my video or you saw the ad, or a friend of a friend told you, either one, you're all here, right? And we're all here to discuss the very nerve-wracking issue is, like, how are we going to build a high-performing team without losing our minds? How do we build a team that is agile, which is like the popular word now, a team that is self-directing, a team that is independent? I just want people to know what they're supposed to do, and they just get it done. How do we do that, right, without shouting, screaming, repeating and emphasizing over and over again? But are there things that we are supposed to know? Are there things that we're supposed to understand? Are there things that we're supposed to master, right? Or have a grasp of that we don't have a grasp of yet, right? And so this is the basis of our conversation today. And it was so interesting for me reading every single entry, because I was just like, hey, okay, I can see where this conversation is going to go, right? Because some of the things that are being stated in these challenges are serious issues, right? And that really just gave perspective to how I would kickstart our conversation for today. But I want to appreciate everyone that took time to fill out the registration form. It really did provide context for our conversation today. If you are just joining us, welcome. My name is Omozino, and I'm going to be your host for today. My name is Omozino, and I'm going to be your host for today, right? I have a plethora of experiences, but I am a human capital professional. I'm a behavioral scientist. Personality-wise, I'm very data-driven. I'm very productivity conscious, and I'm a people-centric person. I've also had a very expansive career managing people and teams as a product manager. So I really deeply do have engaged with people at different levels, right? From managing teams, from managing management level people to lower level cadre people to peers to even younger generation people, right? It is amazing what you learn and what you see. And so the good thing about me being a behavioral scientist is that for a decade, right, I have seen and profiled, I'm pretty much sure more than 20,000 people, like one-on-one, right? And that's very interesting to see. So welcome, Fifi. It's good to have you here. And so today I'll be your host, and today I'll be, leading us into the conversation. But before we get into the midst of they did this one, they don't do this one, they do this one well, they don't do this one well, right? Let's get into understanding some very fundamental things. And talking about fundamentals, right? A lot of us here, right? We have so many leaders here. We have directors that are here. We have managers that are here. We have founders that are here. We have team leads that are here, right? A lot of us are growing into leadership, right? You woke up one day and then someone looked at you in the office or and felt like, oh, you're doing a fantastic job. We want to promote you. We want to push you up the ladder, right? You then become a manager. That's one use case. Another use case is you've been seeing problems, you've been seeing challenges, you've been like, I really want to solve a problem. And then you started the journey as a founder, or you started the journey by yourself, and then you said, okay, I can't do this thing by myself. Let me find one person. Let me join one. Before you knew, one person became two, then two people became three, then three people became 10, and 10 people became 30. And you're like, oh my God, what is happening, right? So a lot of us here who can relate to this story? Like, you just woke up one day, it's like you like your space, you like to do your things, you're very, when it's time for you to get your things done, you get it done. You don't really bother much. Like, you can't do that. Be okay, I'll get it done. And your dad's self-directed, but now you're not just responsible for yourself, you're responsible for other people. And so this is the reality that you are presently facing, you and I are presently facing and having to deal with right now. But the truth is that now, while we have shifted from being individual contributors, right, or individual executors, to now leaders and managers, we are still behaving. Our behavior is as though we're still individual contributors. There hasn't been a shift, right, in our mindset. There hasn't been a shift in our mindset. Because that shift has not happened significantly, we cannot expect different kind of outcomes. Now, the moment you start to manage people, the moment you start to lead people, right? Whether you decided to outsource what you're doing, or you decided to hire somebody, or you were put in a team to manage a set of people, I like to tell you, right? I like to welcome you to the club. The club is that you are an investor. You're not just a tax manager, you're now a talent investor. So a talent investor is somebody, if you're taking time to explain a tax to somebody, if you're taking time to ensure that somebody gets do their work efficiently, if you're taking time to coach, if you're taking time to direct, if you're taking time to nurture, you're taking time to lead, you are now an investor. You have stake, you have skin in the game. That means that your responsibility quotient has expanded. That is, that person's success eventually becomes your success, right? And your success rubs up on that person. So that is a whole different mindset or mind frame from somebody who is thinking that I'm just here, I'm just a man, I'm just here to do X, Y, Z, and I move. When you're thinking as a talent investor, you will then, and you're knowing that, okay, a set of people are coming to join my team, whether it's the HR team or the department or the group that is assigning these people to me, right? I'm going to be spending significant time with them. They're sending assets to me. Now, is this asset a asset or is it a liability, right? So the mindset of a talent investor, once you are a leader, the moment, even if it's one person you're managing, right? Even if it's just two people, the moment you have extra, you're not solely responsible anymore. You're a talent investor. You're not an individual contributor. You're not an employee contributor anymore, right? The stakes are then higher for you. Because if you have comment, you can drop your comments or questions. I'll be happy to. I'm very fluid. I can flow like that. So yeah. So the big question then comes to you, and is to ask yourself. Sorry. What sort of assets do I have? What sort of assets do I have? And if you know you're an investor, right? A normal financial capitalist investor, one of the things that you will agree with me to know is the fact that your worst nightmare, right, is making an investment that yields poor return, right? By the time you're working in that organization or you're building that company, you're already making investments. You're spending your time, your hours, you're spending everything, right, to make it work. You expect returns, right? You expect returns from that. And when you're getting poor returns, you're worried that why, what am I doing wrong? What is going on? But you know, the funny thing about this is that because we don't see people as an asset class, it's the same mindset with bringing people to work with us or even managing people, right, that are assigned to us. They are an asset class. Once you're thinking as an investor, the mindset is different. But because we do not see people as an asset class, right? So the first thing that happens is we make poor decisions or sentimental decisions when hiring. Or the metrics for our judging and saying this person is good, this person is efficient, are very weak and very poor. Or we make hasty decisions, right, before even understanding what sort of talent have we been assigned and how can we make the best of that talent. We've not even spent time to understand, right? And because we've not spent time to understand, we make that hasty decision. I like to let us know, help us to understand that if you manage a team of 2 to 10 people, 10 to 30 people, 50 to 100 people, they're not just working with you, once again, they are investing in them. You are shaping the way they think. You are shaping the way they reason. The way you lead them determines if they are the assets that they have or the tangible, intangible assets that they have, skills and abilities that they have, appreciates or if it depreciates. And also the truth is that this not only this also affects and places a demand on your leadership, no matter how small your team is, no matter how big your team is, right? Even if they started 1 month with you, the truth is that by the 3rd month, they're not living the same. You have rubbed off on them. You are rubbing off on them, right? And so that gives us, that puts a lot, someone is saying a use case. Oh wow, solo facing my work. Okay. You have to start thinking like a talent investor. But because we intuitively, right, make decisions around who would work with, who should we be pouring our time and efforts with, right? How should that look like? What should we be optimizing? But not looking at people as asset classes. By the time we start to look at people as an investment, but like this is an investment portfolio. Like how are we going to optimize this person? How can we bring in the best out of this person so that me as the manager or the leader, I can experience peace of mind. Because if they don't get their work done, it comes back to you. If they don't perform, it comes back to you. If they are having issues, it will come back to you, right? So knowing this and understanding this is so fundamental. So I want you to think about the team that you're presently managing and you're presently working with, right? How do you see them? How do you feel about them? Let me use that word. Are they like asset, or are they like asset, small liability, asset, plenty liability? I'd like to hear in the chats. How do you feel about your present team? Assets, liability, small assets, plenty liability, ineffective. What adjectives are coming to your mind? Okay, that's good. That's good. Asset, small liability. Only me on your team, okay? Fantastic. Large percentage of them are assets. Great, great, great. Any more contribution? %80 asset, 20% liability. Asset, small liability. Only me on my team. Great, 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 great. Great. So it's good to know that, okay. Now, by the time we finish this class, we really then still ask ourselves if it's really, they are really asset, or, but for now, let's keep on. Oh, hold on. So before I get into the crux of what is this, let me just quickly introduce Udemy to all of us here. Some of us do not know what Udemy is about, so I'd like to introduce Udemy to you. Now, in context of helping organizations and professionals improve work-life productivity and performance, right? Udemy leverages behavior and talent analytics. And we enable you to make informed talent career decisions. We enable you to hire and retain the best talents on your team. We enable you to use data-driven insights to improve performance and productivity. And this, at the end of the day, reduces the level of burnout, reduces the level of risk, limits the errors that you encounter, all the while increasing personal and collective productivity for your team and for yourself and for the entire organization. And so that's what Udemy is about, right? Now let's get into it. So people are icebergs. Anybody who knows me knows I always say this. The first thing I tell you when I'm about to say anything about team or people is like, people are icebergs. And there's, yes, at the top is what you're seeing, what you can see, right? What we think when we look at people, we're just looking at what are their skills, their pedigree, their technical ability, their IQ, their experience. One of the things I even like hearing is that skills. The way people say, do they have the skills? When they are talking about employability here, everybody just say, do they have the skills? Do they have the talent? Do they have... But I'm like, in my own experience, profiling thousands and thousands of talents within organizations and within teams, we've seen that the things that really, really drive performance, right, within a team is all of the things that we do not even see. We have no recourse for. Yet these are the intangible elements, right, that control and significantly impact people's performance. So because we're just looking at what's on the surface and trying to figure out what's on the surface, we do not really go in depth to draw and understand what is happening and how can this person drive performance with us long term. So we're just looking at their skills. Okay, they have the skills, they have the expertise, they have the experience, they have the IQ, they have the pedigree, they went to Harvard or they went to Covenant University. They have the technical abilities. Okay, let's move. Or they've jackpot and come back, right? They schooled in the UK, they schooled in Europe, in Siege, and all of those beautiful things. That's what we're looking at. But when it comes down to it, when it comes down to rolling up the sleeves, right, and getting things done, what we found out is completely different. You see those intangible elements like your attitude, your work ethic, your ability to shape shift, your ability to be curious, your level of self-awareness, your level of mental alertness, are the things that really do drive performance. So they are the things that determine if your team is going to stay with you the long haul or if they are not. It's not English, or it's not, I have a certification. It's not even the certifications that you have. So when people are shouting skills, I'm like, you need to start to define what skills are, right? Because the skills that really get the work done are not things that we can see. And now, because human behavior is very, very complex, right? It's becoming increasingly difficult to hire, retain, manage, educate, people by just looking at all of those things on the surface. Have you ever been in a training where, or have you ever know, let's use this example. Have you ever met somebody that you're talking to them, they're so articulate, they know what you're saying, like you're just like, oh wow, this person is so good and so sound. And then it's time, like, let's work together, and then it's time to work together, and you're just like, what's happening here? I can't believe this. Somebody saved me. I've made a mistake, right? So there are sweet talking pros that are out there now, right? And you just actually, but this person made sense. Like, so what happened? What happened? And you question yourself, what happened? And then you meet somebody that that is so unseeming that you're just like, another person just comes in and blows your mind. And you're just like, I don't believe what's going on. And this is so important, right? Because as personal branding becomes what personal branding is, which I love, right? And embellishments continue to happen, it will become increasingly difficult. So one of the skills that you have to master is, how do you discern? How do you know who is fit to work with you and who is not fit to work? Because as every one of us here, it's not everybody that is a good fit to work with you. That's the truth. Not everybody would make sense for working with you. Okay? So, in context of what I just described in previous slide, we can now see that qualitative inputs, if we look at it and think about it, if you think about your team, all the people on your team right now that are assets to you, why do you like them? What makes you like them? Is it that are they giving you sweets every day? No. What makes you like them? What makes you like your present team? If I ask you, okay, all the people, a lot of people say, oh, my team is an asset right now. You're really feeling pumped. When you think about it, is it that they give you peace of mind? That you know that, oh, once Jaye is on this thing, I can sleep. I know that Jaye will come true for me. So qualitative inputs, right, really do drive quantitative outputs. We're now, I mean, the world is experiencing they keep saying we're on the brink of a recession. I feel like the recession has started, to be honest, but we're on the brink. So let's say we're on the brink of a recession, right? As an organization, as you, as a person, right, a leader within that team, you're asking yourself critical questions now. Like, when you're thinking about your team, you're thinking about the person that can think fast, that can move, that is curious enough, that is researching, that is advancing things within the organization. Because it's not about the amount of effort that they are putting about into it, but it's the quality of effort. Somebody can be super experienced, right? But the quality of their effort is insignificant. And so that renders them incompetent for you. And that's the truth. Because when it comes down to it, when it comes down to we're in a mess, like the revenue this month does not make sense. What are we going to do? Is your team members that are curious? Is your team members that are flexible? Is your team members that are thinking of their cap? Or you're looking at your assigned KPI for the month, right? And you're looking at it's second week into before the end of the month. We have not achieved. What is happening? Is your team members that are methodical? Is your team members that are proactive, that will give you joy? It's not your team member that has all the certification that's right. So growth potential now is now very important. Qualitative growth potential, qualitative effectiveness. These are things that are now becoming very important and very necessary for us to take into consideration as leaders. Now, what does qualitative input look like? And what does qualitative performance look like? What are the inputs or what are the elements that makes it worthwhile? Now, it's interesting for us to know that every time we at Yudimy, every time we had to do a team alignment, we usually found out that it wasn't because the team wasn't knowledge smart. It wasn't because the team wasn't process smart. But the reason for the talent mismatch was usually along all these things, these lines. There was a mismatch of that particular employee or that particular talent to that role in terms of personality, in terms of soft abilities, in terms of their motivation for work and the company's motivation for growth, completely misaligned in terms of work style, in terms of behavioral archetypes. So you can have a very knowledge smart, and so this then begins to help us put into proper context how we go about even training and development. Company sports, and we all represent organizations here. Your team is not maybe meeting up to par. The first thing you think about is let's do a training. Let's train them. Their communication skill is bad. Let's train them on communication. You get one or two smart trainers, they come in and train and nothing changed. How? It can't change because the fundamental intrinsic things that drives a person communication, you have no clue about. The facilitator also has zero clue about. You don't know if that person's motivation, if that person has outgrown that role and they're just existing, waiting for the next thing so that they will move. You don't know. You don't know if there's a misalignment between their work style and maybe their direct line reports, direct line managers' work style. You don't know what you are seeing. And that's why I said, as much as one is tracking quantitative numbers, one also has to track qualitative inputs. These things, they drive and they affect a lot of things. So you can see people, and then maybe the organization is like, let's even test if they know this process. They will, all of them will pass. All of them. They will say promotional exam. They'll answer all the process. These people know these processes. They know it. They know it. So if you think about your team right now, there are people, it's not like they are not smart. They are smart. But we often see that the right people with the right values, but poor engagement we've also seen situations where we have the right people with the right behavioral or intangible qualitative components, but they are poorly engaged. That is, there's no present leadership. So it's part of, on the flip side, there's one side where there's a talent mismatch. There's one other side where there is poor leadership. And so these are issues. Now, as I read through every single entry, every single submission for this particular meetup, I spotted a pattern of what was going on within our teams, and that's what helped me to put together this very short presentation. So are we ready? Before we look into that dimension, now out of all of these different qualitative inputs, we're going to be looking at one, and this one that I've spotted, right, is what I saw within our entries and our submission as a key problem that might be affecting the way our team produces results that we are not even aware of, right? So my intention is to give us perspective towards that, as well as help us now have a general conversation around it. So, are we ready? Are we ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's start. Are we ready? Do we want to know the tea? Is it tea? This morning is so hot, but if you're a tea lover, but are we ready to hear it? Fantastic. If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. Just follow our thoughts and you'll catch up. Okay, so great. Now, what we're going to be talking about, the dimension we're going to be hammering on is work style. Remember, I said that at the beginning of this conversation, I said that we need to move from thinking as individual contributors, right? People that just get things done. We need to start thinking like talent investor. And the talent investor's mindset is different. The talent investor's mindset is such that you're thinking, okay, this person that has been assigned to me, how am I going to 10x them so that I can have rest of mind, right? And I can accelerate my work without having to yell, micromanage, stress, always and often check. How do I build up their competencies to that point? And when you're thinking about yourself as a talent investor, you're also knowing that the qualitative intangible inputs are the things that affect and influence the quantitative outputs, right, that people have. And so we've just looked at a lot of those elements. Now, I'm picking one out of the 5 that I have outlined to help us properly, because I noticed in our submissions in registration, a lot of us are pointing to that dimension that we have critical issues with, and I want us to have conversation about it. So work style is what we're going to start talking about. Now, to just give an overview definition of what work style is your work style or people's work style are a collection of behaviors and attitudes that you apply to how you execute. So by default, you have a predominant way of how you approach tasks, how you think through activities, how you think through how you want to get things done. Every one of us has a dominant way of doing that, and that's what we're going to look at. Now, to really give us understanding of what this work style is, I want us to look at this very quick case study. Now, we've used a pseudo name but this was a very real life situation, right? So Giant Retail, you had a 50-person sales team and with 2 supervisors, right? And this sales team is spread across like 10 to 15 Nigerian states. And the head of business or the head of sales or growth said, you know what, they were making about, I think, 100 million monthly, and they wanted to double that amount. But the head of sales had a concern. And our concern was that in the last 6 months, they've been trying to double that amount for their sales across their different distribution centers. And they have tried everything. They were trying every single thing that they knew how to. The first thing, they put everybody on performance improvement plans, the ones that were not meeting up to their sales target. It did not work. They did sales training. It did not work. They brought technology, CRMs. They said, okay, let's put proper structure. Wonderful. Everything what they were trying were just, putting back at their faces like, no, you're not. This matter is deeper than what you're thinking. And then we're doing more trainings and all of that. So she was really, so her name is Ria, and she was very, very perplexed. She was like, I don't know what's happening. And so somehow she found Yudimy. And by the time we did our analysis on what's the actual thing that was going on within the team, right, she was very perplexed. Now, I would like to show you what we discovered. So what did we find? We found some very interesting things about along all of those dimensions, right? That qualitative dimensions that I've mentioned that were really, really, really affecting the team's performance. But since we're just talking about work style, I'm just going to pick this dimension and we're going to extrapolate it. Now, 70% of them had a work style of visualizers. I'll explain what that means. And then 30% of them had the work styles of prioritizers. Now, what that meant was that 15 out of 50 people had the right approach to thinking and getting work done. So that means that 35 out of 15 who were visualizers had the poor work ethic that was required to get that output done. It didn't matter if they spent money training. It didn't matter if they had put strict rules and regulations. It did not matter if they even brought in new technology. These 35, which were a significant number of the workforce, had the wrong approach and wrong thinking, work ethic to get the work done. So that this 35, the severity of their work ethic was even affecting the 15 and also was modeling all everything up. So regardless of what they were doing, no matter how well-meaning their strategy and intention was, they're never really going to get the result that they were aiming for. So let's now look into these dimensions of work style. Now, I said work styles, I gave the example of giant retail. But there are 4 key dimensions that we've seen and we've monitored and we've seen consistently tracked patterns by patterns over time. And we've seen that it significantly influences how people go about their work and their work ethic and what they do. And the first one is visualizing, prioritizing, planning, coordinating. So we have 4: visualizing, prioritizing, planning, and coordinating. So these are work styles that really do affect and influence how people get their work done. Let's get into it. So visualizers, very interesting set of people. So just to establish, it is very possible that everybody has a ratio of all of these parts, but there's always a dominating one. And that dominating one, regardless of whatever you do, sometimes if it's very potent, it always overshadows the rest. So people with this work style, they're usually really good at generating solutions to problems. Like they're your idea guys, right? They're constantly questioning things. They're constantly asking why. They're constantly pushing the boundaries. They're constantly saying, I just found this today. I just researched it today. I just saw this idea today. In fact, by the time they give you so many ideas, I have this idea. I think this idea is good. I think we should go this direction. I think this strategy is. They never lack ideas, to be honest. They never lack ideas. They're really good at connecting the dots. They're really good at helping you see ahead, right? They're good at generating innovative ideas. They're very strategic people, right? People that have this as their dominant work style. But the truth with this work style is that if you have them as a lot in your team, what you realize is that they're very impulsive in the sense that they can come up with so many ideas, they will never follow through with any. Their follow-through approach is very weak and is very poor. The ability to follow through is weak. Sorry, something is interjecting. Okay, so their ability to follow through is very weak, very, very weak. So you might love their ideas, you love all the English that they are speaking to you, you love all the strategies that they are coming to you with, right? But you are very tired because you always have to check. You always, have you done this? No. Have I done it? They can even tell, okay, I'm working on it now. I'll be right back. Like I'll be right back. And they're very persuasive, right? Because they're visionary people. So the effect of having that visionary spirit is you would be highly persuasive. So people with this work ethic or this work style, execution is always a problem for them. So you find out that you always have to micromanage them. And this was one of the realities that Ria of Giant Retail was facing. So by the time we unraveled that, she was like, now this sort of makes sense. Like, it's not like they're not smart. Anytime we train them, like they respond to the training. The first week is always really good. But after that first week, it's like we're back to default setting. I said, that's their work, this is their MO. So 70% of your team would give you how we're going to grow, but they are never going to execute on how you're going to. Your best time with them is when you are brainstorming. So how are we going to take over this part of Kaduna? How are we going to take over this part of Gombe? How are we going to take over Oyo? But they will strategize everything, but execution, it's not going to work. And then if you're even their lead, if you're leading a visualizer, right? If you give them an idea or a strategy that they don't really sync with, right? You realize that they'll either dump it and try another thing, they won't follow through. And then you're asking them, they'll try to dodge the question. There's just a way, they're very slippery with it. They'll just dodge it and you're like, yes, I thought that, I was thinking that. And you're like, no, I don't want to be here, you're thinking. I want to be here, you're doing. What are you thinking? Why are you still thinking? I expect you to be doing, not thinking, But that's their predominant strength. And so that's the best that you're going to always get from them. Once you cross that point, it was going to be very difficult. I also, as we're listening to this, I'm sure some people I think I'm a visualizer. So I would also talk about if you're on the flip side and what that would mean for you. So just hang in there. So let's move to the next guys. So the next guys, they are prioritizing, or prioritizers, as I like to call them. So these guys they're people that all organizations, even you on this one, you're like, everybody wants an executor, they're so sweet. They're like, oh my God, she just gets things done. He gets things done. In fact, I just like him because he gets things done. So these are the people, they get things done. They're laser. If you say move from point A to B, they will move from point A to B. and give you 100% of point A to B, and you will just like, what did I do to deserve this sweetness, right? So they're laser focused on getting things done. For them to be laser focused, they need autonomy. So people with this prioritizing work style, they thrive on autonomy. You can't tell me to get things done and you're now breathing down my neck. Uncle, auntie, let me, allow me work. Allow me execute, right? You can't assign a task to a prioritizer and then you're now checking every 2 minutes, every 3, like, right? Another problem, and it's going to be problematic for them. When things are changing and shifting, they're good at being flexible and improvising, right? So if you come tomorrow and say, we're changing direction, the prioritizer will never say, oh, why? Why are we going to do this strategy? No, they will never argue with you. They're like, okay, why? What do you think we should do? Okay, let's move. They will move with you, right? They'll never have like that type of strong, you won't have to experience strong resistance with them. But the thing with them is that as execution is great, there are some fundamental things that are critically wrong with this people that have this as their predominant work style. Is that communication is an issue. Once they're executing, they don't say, you don't hear anything till it's like done or close to done. They might not even tell you what is going on. Like you will literally be in the blank, right? So if you are their manager, you're the one that will be guessing, so where are we now? What are we doing? What's happening? They're the kind of talent that they will not update their Trello board. They will not update Jira. But trust me, if you want to know if things are done, just go and check the item they've done it. But they will not update. They don't, like, they struggle with that. Communication isn't their strong point. Collaborating also isn't also their strong point because they're very task oriented. Collaborating is almost like you're stressing me. Like, just give me my part. Let me just go. Forever and ever, these people would always be good contributors, right? But the moment you now tell me you have to work with XYZ, it's almost like you're going to kill them. They will do their work, they will do XYZ's work, they will do ABC's work so that they will not have to deal with any human interaction. Another thing that you're notorious for is not following processes. So as much as they are good at executing, if you give them, roles that require them to follow due processes of like be methodical, right? They're going to struggle with it a lot, significantly going to struggle with it. Because they move as things are happening. Like if things are shifting, they will move. If they are on the spot and things need to shift, like they will do that. They will not think about, is it right? Is it ethical? Is it not ethical? Is it aligned with our company value? Like, so very streamlined roles don't really work for them. So because of that sort of part of their personality, they always will have blind spots because they're trying to take shortcuts. Another work style is planning, the planners, right? They're really good at organizing, sequencing, detailing, being thorough, ensuring that things are done. If you want to take something that is vague and break it into actionable steps, the planners are the best people to work with. They are the people that would anticipate risk. They will be telling you that this is risk, like what we're about to do, this is the risk and this is how we can mitigate it ahead of time, right? So they think in multiple tranches. They think in trenches that, they anticipate things that no other person on the team can anticipate. They think about flows and processes really, really on a granular scale. So when you're telling a planner, okay, we want to do this, and this is why we want to do it, they're listening to you, but the way they're processing the information is different. When you come back and they give you like, this is a series of things that we need to do to ensure that this succeeds, take their word for it, right? They are those sort of people. Where they would struggle with a lot is flexibility and responding to change, which is very critical, especially in these times that we are in, right? Responding to change, shifting, adjusting is always it takes a lot. It takes a lot for the planning types people with the planning work ethic to adjust. They can be goofy, they can do, any other thing. But once it comes to work and you're trying to shift something, you said this, now you're now saying this, problem. They might not say anything, but like just know that the resentment has started building up for you in that team, and it's just going to be a matter of time. Either they exit the team, they exit the company, or anything you see, you take it from them, right? So planners are like that. And then the last one we'll talk about is the coordinating types. Are we still together? Are we still together? Just want to get some feedback.
Yes, we are together.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have the coordinating types, right? Now the coordinating types, they're very lovely, they're the social butterflies, they like coordinating, collaborating, communicating, they're the harmonizers, right? They're the ones that you can tell, if you know that you have somebody, they can penetrate people, right? So if you know that you have like maybe a team member that is just creating obstacles, someone that has this work ethic is usually the best person to talk to, because you will find out that they actually do have a relationship with that person, and they can wind that person and make that person get what they need to get done, right? So they're like water. They're good at communicating, collaborating. They're good at coordinating, ideating, and planning execution. They can function as a specialist if when it's required, and they can function as a generalist when it's required, right? So they have like the managerial or the leader type of archetype, right? Naturally, based on their natural disposition. Let everybody come together, let everybody do what we need to do. Oh, why are you offended? Let's not. Okay, the Q&A function. I guess someone would help with that, please. So let's come together. They're harmonizers, and in a team you need that, because there's always going to be someone that's going to be there's always going to be fight, there's always going to be tension, there's always going to be things that would shake everybody, right? I once worked with someone that was very interesting, right? He had this particular work style, right? He would harmonize everybody. Like, you can't give him the most annoying engineer, right? Or developer, because we play in technology space, right? And he would just calm the person down. The person would, the work that they were refusing and saying, me, I will not do this thing. I was causing fights. There's just a way, he just has that flavor. But you see these coordinating types, if there's anybody that overpromises and underdelivers, it's these people. They're likely to overpromise because they're trying to please everybody, because they're harmonizers. They're trying to ensure that everybody is, at peace. Everything is happening in proper synchronization. So they make promises that are unrealistic and, that they cannot meet up with. They're not very pragmatic people. A lot of times, because they're idealistic in their approach, right? They make these promises, they go beyond their capacity, they are now struggling. These coordinating types, they struggle with delegating, they struggle with juggling too many responsibilities, and then it becomes chaotic. And then at the point, you're not like, what's happening here? Why are you not managing time? Why did you promise this? Why did you set this timeline when you don't, obviously you can't meet this timeline? So because these are their weaknesses, right? They don't know how to manage expectations. They're not pragmatic with expectation management. So even in setting expectations for people, they set high expectations. In setting expectations for them to fulfill, they set ridiculous expectations that they know that they can never meet, or they are hopeful, right? That's the word. They are hopeful that they will meet, but they will never get to meeting it. And so this is type of work style that this person, or behavioral tendencies that this person, a person with this work style as a predominant one, would always have to deal with. So now that I have explained this work style, I want us to then imagine together and put these things into proper perspective. So imagine if you have a team of visualizers and you as their lead is a prioritizer. What's likely to happen? What's likely to be your experience as their leader? Anybody care to try? What do you think your experience as their leader would be? Okay, someone's hand is raised.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So as a product manager, I think I experienced this like some few months ago when I had to work like another team somewhere else. I wouldn't say like I'm a generalist, so I have like a prioritizing archetype as part of my archetype. But I realized that it was a design team, so most of them were visualizers, and they never followed anything through. So basically, it really affected our timeline. It was always behind, and it was really frustrating. Yeah, it was really, really frustrating.
Frustrating. That's the word. Thank you, Samuel, for sharing that your experience. Very valuable add to this conversation. Frustration, you will just be pent up. It's almost like, let me just take this, let me take the fig myself and just do it myself, because what's all this nonsense that I'm experiencing here? Why don't you people keep to time? What's happening? So Deborah is saying impatience, frustration, very, very true. Delay tasks, Okay, another person in Precious is saying, I think labs would feel up better if all archetypes were together in the same. Oh yeah, we're going to get that, what that looks like. So thank you, Precious, Naomi, and Samuel, for sharing your experience. It will be super frustrating. And the truth is that because you just want to get things done, you then fall into the trap of taking it and getting it done. Because at the end of the day, it's done you want to be hearing. You don't want to, your stakeholders or the people you're working with, or even you as founder, you just want to be done. Like, you don't just want to be hearing, and we're still doing, we're still thinking, we're still wondering, we're still, what's all that? You don't really care about all of that information, right? And so that's the reality. Exactly. Thank you, Susan. I love this contribution. Indecisive, because many of the ideas are being presented and nothing is happening. There's no momentum. So there's all of these ideas and there's no momentum. Now, if someone asked, I think it was Deborah that asked a question earlier, and then she said, what if the leader is the visualizer? That's the beauty of self-awareness. If you are a visualizer as a leader, you know that your own, that idea, the creative process, that process of creating, ideating, strategy, that's what gives you the kicks. That's what you're always excited about. Then you have to be conscious of your own blind spot, because visualizers love visualizers. That's the truth. We like people that are similar to us by default, right? So you have to find the balance within your team and say, okay, I need people that are executors. And I'm not even going to joke with this, right? If not, nothing is going to get done. I'm not going to sit down on this thing. I wish, I dream, I imagine, in fact, it would be so good. There are the times that they're always speculating. Trust me, it's not easy to turn it off, to be honest. Each of all of these dimensions of work, when you find yourself with your predominant, you understand your predominant one, you understand that by default, it's not easy to turn it off. And in instances where you have to turn it off, it means that you've started to alter significant parts of your personality, which might backfire down the line. So if you're a visualizer here, and you realize that, okay, now I've come to an awareness that I'm a visualizer, like execution isn't really my thing at all. You need to surround yourself with those who consciously surround yourself with those who are good with strategy, those who are good with planning, those who are good with coordinating, right? And you also need to be frank with yourself. Now, because one of the things that are very critical for me, that's very critical for me to mention now, is the fact that on all of these 4 spectrums of work styles and work ethics, right, is the fact that we have we interact with it at varying points. So you can be a visualizer, and it could just be that you're just 50% visualizing, right? And prioritizing has about you're like a 60% good at prioritizing. That means you have like a good and healthy blend. And I will show you what I mean by that. Now, in working with giant retail, right, we had to synthesize and say, what exactly is your ideal work ethic combination, work style combination? What do you think is a combination that will make sense? And let's now start to look at your team and say, who has this combination, and who has this combination that is to a reasonable extent that we can work with, right? And who does not have this combination, right, that is significant enough to work with. And this is the beauty of using behavioral data to just optimize yourself. And so what happened with Ria and her team at the end of the day was that we're able to see that, okay, there are visualizers that are significant and predominant, but they also have these complementaries. So let's start to mix different people with different complementary work styles, and then optimizing teams across regions. And that was one of the things. Remember, I said we looked at those 5 or 6 dimensions, right? But understanding this, Ria understanding this alone helped her to unlock her team's productivity significantly. So there's a good blend of strategies with coordinators with, in this region, and then in this region, and then and so when they're all together, they balance each other out. Because at the end of the day, people are not perfect, right? And so I'm tired of hearing people I'm tired of we leaders trying to hire or trying to get people to join our teams, and then we're looking for the perfect candidate. And I'm like, do you even know that the day you hire that person, by 1 month time, they're not the same person that you hired 30 days ago? If you understand how dynamic people's personality, motivation, all of these things changes, right? You will look at the most optimal data points. That's what I said at the beginning. We established that we need to shift from being individual contributors or just managers for managers' sake or leaders for leaders' sake to talent investor. When you're thinking as a talent investor, you begin to look at the intangible things that will promote longevity and growth within your team versus the other way around. So looking at things like this objectively really helped Ria and her team. And it's the same thing that applies, just this aspect of work style. Just this aspect of work style out of the various dimensions, right? And we're already seeing how it even affects a lot. So this is what a lot of us, even I who is speaking to you, right? Before I got to this point of awareness, I was also very guilty of this, right? Where you are taking, and you're in fact, they must fit this thing, they must get it back. We're burning out ourselves. We're burning out ourselves. Because for people to do their best work, we must encourage them to play to their area of competitive advantage. And there's something I want to say now that is very, very critical, because I want us to pay attention to it because it's very, very important. Is the fact that, and I will share a very personal experience. So I was once working in a team, and I realized that I had to alter so many parts of my personality, motivation, work style, behavioral. I had to alter it significantly because I wanted to accommodate and ensure that the team was effective. At the time, I had a co-pair, working with me, that I expected to ensure operational efficiency on that project. But when I noticed that that wasn't working, I had to step in because the team was becoming chaotic, and I could not stand that chaos. I needed to organize that chaos quickly, and so to improve efficiency. I thought it was just going to be a quick 1 month and we are done. 1 month, 2, 3. It became a 6 months affair. By the time it was month 6, I could not recognize myself anymore. That means that my competitive strength, which was to enable the team to think strategically, enable the team to work on the right ideas at the right time, I have put that aside to adopt another persona that was counter to my competitive advantage as a person. And then that led to significant wear and tear. You will just be angry, you don't know why you're angry. You will be tired, you don't even know why you're tired. But those elements of burnout are really is a pointer that you're altering significant parts of your natural tendencies that require that you would naturally need to function at high capacity. And because you are altering it significantly and consistently, you cannot perform at a high level anymore. And once that starts to happen, you feel discontent. And once you start to feel discontent and dissatisfied, you want, burnout starts to happen, stress, depression, you're thinking everything is just going bad. Who can relate to what I'm saying? Has anyone had this type of experience? Where you feel like you're just taking, you're just adjusting, and then you realize that I can't even recognize myself anymore. And the thing that made you perform at the optimal, ratio that made them even love you and say, you know what, we want to work with you, you know what, we want to partner with you, you know what, we want you to be on your team, or want to be on your team, you just lose that zest, and you're just like, no, you lose your zing, and you hate everybody. You realize that you're hating your job, and you're not complaining about career burnout. I think I hate my job. I think this work isn't good for me. No, it's not the work. It's just something is altering. Something around you is altering, something inside you has altered significantly. And if you don't take a hold of it and straighten and align it, you will burn out. And once you burn out, you hate the job. You will not even know when you just wake up one day and just say, you know what, I'm done. I don't even care. Let me be hungry for 3 months. I'm not working again. And you want to avoid that kind of getting to that point, because it doesn't help you and it doesn't help every other person that is working with you. And so in light of this thing, right, is why we also at Udemy had thought, and we've seen, I have been a leader, being one who has managed people, being one who is still leading people. I being someone who has the experience as a behavioral scientist and with education psychology and all of those things, seeing this happen over and over and over to people around us, to clients and customers, to people that we work with closely, we then decided to put together something I think would be very, very important and useful to every one of us here. It's called the People Management Accelerator, right? And what's the big idea behind the People Management Accelerator? Is to really just help us understand deeply understand the psychology of how we are wired as leaders, understand the psychology of the people in our teams, and design a framework that works for each and every one of us so that we are not burnt out, so that we are not unnecessarily stressed, so that we're not weary, right? And this is an accelerator we've put together that I think will be very significant and it's going to help us a lot. We'll talk about that, but I want us to know this because it's very important. Now let's get into, so let's bring you home. Let's bring you home. And this is the point where we start to answer questions and start to have a conversation, right? What do you think how balanced is your team at this moment, right? What do you think your predominant work style is? I'd like to hear from everybody. What do you think your predominant work style is? And what do you think is like the predominant work style within your team right now? I'm not talking about these micros. I'm talking about the predominant, like what do you think is the dominant? Yeah, I think that's a better word. The dominant work style that you have, right? And the dominant work style that is operational within your team right now. I like to hear from everybody. Then we start to answer questions, can raise hands, give contributions, share our thoughts and all of that, share issues I want us to deliberate together on. So yes. Anyone wants to share, you can request for the mic. We're happy to give you audience. I want to spend some time to think about it. What do you think your dominant work style is? What do you think it is? And what do you think is, the dominant and what's operational within your team? Yes, I understand. It will be distributed across the 4 archetypes. Yes, but there is one where you feel most at home. The one where you feel like, if I'm doing this, I'm in my best element. Which one is your best element? Because at the end of the day, when it comes to productive work or effective work, right? You always want to be working in your area of best advantage. That's what makes us shine, right? That's what makes each and every one of us shine. Working in that zone of best advantage is what makes us shine. Yes, on a personal level and then your team. Okay, Naomi says she's more of a planner. That's nice. You're a visualizer, but you're big on following through with things. I'm sure you had to train yourself to be that, right? It definitely will not have, yeah, exactly. It won't come naturally to you. It has to be an intentional, it's very deliberate. For visualizers to alter themselves is always there is a war, it's a tug of war. It's a tug of war.
Okay. All right. So I mean, basically, hi. So I'm really glad to be here, right? And I've learned a lot. There's some things I didn't realize before now, but now I'm now seeing like some traces of it now, right? So before now, I am so big on learning. So I realized that I might start a book and I might just get to maybe page 200 and something, I drop it, I start another one, right? So I realized the fact that I was starting things and I was not finishing it through. So I became very huge on more like breaking things, into chunks, right? And making sure that I finish them before. So, I mean, when I said like my archetypes are cut across the 4, I feel like I became self-aware at a point So I picked up a lot of things from these 4 archetypes, but I feel like I am more of a visualizer.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Sama, for sharing. Any other person wants to? Okay, Hannah is sharing that she's also a visualizer. How many visualizers do we have here? Like, dominantly, you're a visualizer. Just wave your hand. Just, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Okay. I like this angle. Fifi, thank you. Visualizer, but I get burnt out before the execution. But I'm also to expect others to get things done. Oh, wow. So that's a very interesting part. So imagine a visualizer in a highly operational role. Yes, the recording and the video will be available later. Imagine you. So self-awareness is so key. And this is why we want to also encourage everyone to attend the People Management Accelerator. We just treated work style and see the amount of understanding we're getting about ourselves right now, and also understanding the people that we are working alongside with, right? Imagine by the time we then dig into personality, and then we dig into behavioral archetypes, we dig into abilities, and we dig into motivation, right? I was thinking I was going to treat motivation today, because if I started motivation, I'm sure we'll spend another like 3 or 4 hours on this call, because it's really intense. How does motivation influence how people perform, influence their retention, influence their abilities and capacity? You'll be amazed what we've seen, the data sets that we've seen, and how it really affects in real time. So let's see more, and then I will start to answer questions, and then we start to take questions. Okay, visualizers and coordinator, but with very bad productivity, and that's something that can be improved. So I like Samuel's angle. He said he noticed it and started to work on it bit by bit. I'm sure if he encountered Udemy at certain points, there will be a whole framework would have given him, probably be like, but now he's here. So yes, we believe that he's going to 10x and 10x himself and also his team. So I can't analyze myself. Okay. That's not a problem. We have tools that do this type of analysis, to help you understand yourself, to help you understand different aspects of your personality and how it affects your work life, and how it affects your productivity, and how it affects your career growth, not just for you, but also for your team. So we have tools. We're happy to help you and assist you in that regard if you join in the Accelerator program as well. Visualizer, planner, prioritizer. There's definitely a dominant one there, and I'm sure visualizer is likely to be a dominant one, likely, because if you already feel burnt out before execution, yes, yes, okay. So I think we can start to have the conversation, right? So who has questions, who has thoughts, who has observations from what they've been noticing based on what we talked about, and maybe other issues, right, that you're going through right now within your team and trying to hack, and it's not like you can find, you're wondering about, and you want us to talk about it. The floor is open for Q&A. The floor is also open for conversation. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so Naomi is saying I'm more of a planner mixed with coordinator, although I don't miss deadlines since I'm the only one on my team, but I guess working with a team will bring out more of what I know for now. All right, all right. Is the emoji for me? Okay, so Fifi is saying, what if you're just starting out with team building? How do you go about finding the right styles to complement your own style and other styles within the new team? I like the rhymes, finding your own style, complement another person's style and other styles. Pardon me, I like to play. Okay, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. In fact, one of the things and that's why you're here, and that's why we're all here, and that's why we are doing what we're doing right now, is to create awareness. You need to even know what are you looking out for, right? It's beyond job fit or culture fit or hiring for fit. Is now way beyond. It has gone beyond. It has gone beyond technical ability or aptitude, right? But now the intangible metrics, we do not have references for them. I remember I said at the beginning of this that you are a talent investor. You're not just a manager or a leader that just wanted to get somebody to do one job. No, no, no. You are investing time, you're investing effort to optimize that person's capacity so that they can get the job done well. And so if that's the mindset, right, you then need to know what are the metrics that matter. And in understanding the metrics that matter is why we exist here. On one hand, we create tools that help you to do that. So all you do, there's a tool we're currently working on called Precision. And all that you have to do is you input your expectations in terms of everything from soft to technical abilities, and then it creates an assessment simulation that you can administer to a candidate. And then like an x-ray, you get to see what that candidate is able to do pragmatically, not the wish, not the I accelerated, not those embellished words, in pragmatic, real objective light. You're going to see how this team, this person, right, syncs with your culture, syncs with working with you, syncs with working within the team that you're working in. And this is one of the things that I think so this snippet here is from the reports, one of the reports that we administered to so in hiring, organizations also use this, right, to optimize their hiring efficiency. HR professionals, I believe HR professionals are also on this call. This is a very useful tool for you. The time you even spend screening CVs, the time you spend interviewing and they tell you one thing on the phone, and then time to, sorry, pardon me. The time you used to get feedback, right? And then when you give them offer, and then next moment you realize that 2 months in, it's like something is not balanced inside this person that we hired. What happened? All of those talks, all of those very painful processes, and it's time consuming, right? Because you spend time talking, you spend time, and then the person you hired, what you expected and what you are receiving is like their worlds apart. So this tool is very good to help you to do that. And if you stick with us, I believe everyone will want to stick with us. We hope that you stick with us. We'll be giving out, rolling out a public beta soon as regards that product. But in the interim, what is it critical for you to know is that you need to know the metrics that matter. How do you understand the psychology of people? The moment you start to manage people, right, you have to move beyond, I understand, I just want people to get job done, to understanding human behavior, because that's what you're going to be managing. You're not going to be managing just outcomes and outputs. You're managing behavior on a daily. So do you understand behavior? To what degree do you understand behavior? Do you understand when a social introvert is working? Do you understand that it's not in all roles that a social introvert should work in? Imagine, and this is a real life story, right? Like, I have to share this story because it's so important. We once profiled within an organization that they had a team of 5 back-end engineers, and like 3, their predominant personality wiring had social introversion. And the line manager was complaining that we're not getting anything done. I said, okay, they will not get anything done because as per personality, by default, maybe they're technically good and they were able to get it, but by performance, social introverts should not be in a highly technical role. They will try, but they will always be swimming underwater. They will be gasping for air underwater. They will never feel like fishes swimming in the water. Right? I said that's why your entire back end team is just 2 people that's carrying the entire load. That's why, sir. He said, are you serious? So this explains us, okay, now this is, and then he understood, and then we're able to find that, okay, let's start to transition these people. Maybe we'll transition them to front end or data science. Let them, they're not going to work for DevOps, they're not going to work for core backend engineering. And this is just one example out of so many. So that's why I said we need to understand all the different dimensions. We need to understand people's psychology. We need to understand human behavior if we want to get the best out of people. Because at the end of the day, you're managing people. It's people. Behavior is what you're managing day in, day out. So if you don't even understand behaviors, even the nitty-gritty or even the high level, how do you optimize it? How do you know when to stop? How do you know when to tell to the team, the people and cultural team that, okay, I don't think this kind of person works for my department. I want to be on the interview panel, please. And I need to know who's been assigned. Or when they send somebody arbitrary your way, how do you manage that process? How do you know the type of tasks and responsibility to give to that person? How do you manage expectations? Because you're not managing outcomes and outputs. You're managing the behavior that will produce that outcome and output. So you need to know your own behaviors. You need to know those people's behavior, and they need to know how to sync it together to get them to get what you need to do done. Yes. I think there's another question. Oh, Susan, so you're a visualizer, but I equally have others, just that I make others do the execution. I love it. You make others do the execution. I hope you don't make others do the execution by shouting and yelling and bashing. That's another angle. And you don't micromanage them, because visualizers, they don't like executing, but they have the tendency to micromanage too, because they know that their weakness is in consistent execution. So they want to drill in and ensure that everybody. So yeah, I just wanted to say that quickly. Deborah, please, you have the floor. I have unmuted your mic.
Okay. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'd like to ask, thank you so much for the session. It's really very eye-opening, and I've asked my team something. Well, but I'd like to know when hiring, because from what I understand, this is still something your application or the invention is still in process. But what do you think? How do you think are the easiest ways to support people like this? Do you talking or interacting with such people, we give them, of course, whereas you grow bigger, you don't really have time to ease people into certain roles and all of these things. You just want to hire and let them start going after onboarding. You don't want the time between onboarding and them getting to work to be very long. But since
Sorry, Deborah, your line is
questions,
breaking. Maybe I should mute.
oh wow, sorry about that.
I couldn't hear a lot of what you said. Sorry, can you take it again?
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay, so I was trying to say, do you think that it would be good what kind of worker a person is? Not directly ask them, because people would want to say things about themselves that put them in a good light. Do you think that setting scenarios for them to maybe answer would better reveal what kind of workers they are? Do you think that such a would be a good idea, especially since we don't have access to, the invention of, just imputing their CVs and getting what kind of people they are, what kind of workers or team members they are? Do you think that setting those scenarios will help? us to know them better, or is it just a waste of time to set those scenarios? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for that question. And that's a very good question. So I'll say two things, right? First, with the tool coming out, it will definitely come out. For precision, the framework is you will not need to depend on CVs to do your hiring. You can objectively assess by just setting your expectation, and then you create simulations that can assess the candidates. Now, on the other hand is knowing how to question people intelligently, right? How do you build rapport with people? How do you ask questions? So even when we set case studies and we set scenarios, right? So first stage, second stage, third stage of interview and all of that, recruitment, and we set scenarios. Many of all of these things do not bring out qualitative data because we don't know how to set qualitative data. If I wanted to understand somebody's work style as a visualizing person, I would ask them, I would pick maybe a skill dimension that I want them, that I know they're going to be using operationally day to day, right? So say the core function of their work is client relations and partnerships. And I want to understand, how do they work? How are they coordinators? Are they planners? Are they visualizers? So with client coordination, client relationship and partnership, I know that visualizing might be one of the things that I want, because I want somebody that would, keep the client excited. I want someone that would keep the clients, solve the client, think creatively with the client to solve their problem, even though we'll now have to come back and maybe fine tune some of the ideas. So it's not just idea, it's something that we can, realistically execute on. I want somebody that's that persuasive. So I would then put the scenario question would then be around, tell us a challenge that you have, use this skill to solve. The nature of how they describe that challenge, the challenge they use it to solve, the problem they use it to solve, and the impact that it made, sort of kinds of points to how they approach and how they think about tasks, right? How they articulate themselves shows how they think about tasks and how they approach tasks. This is something that we factored in the tool that we're creating. But even on a nominal scale, right? You asking, although it's more pressure for you to read maybe 100, how did you use this thing to scan and all of that? But on a nominal scale, you can almost tell candidates that differentiate themselves, right? And how they approach and how they think through tasks. I always say something, if somebody has mastered a skill, if somebody really knows the skill, if somebody has worked with a skill, they'll be able to articulate it. When they cannot articulate it in writing, they cannot articulate that thing in writing. I've seen this framework, that this question structure that I just explained, we've used it to test real life, actual technical roles. Those that know it know how to articulate it. Those that don't know, that have no clue, they don't know how to articulate it, and it always shows. Even when you move them from answering that question to maybe doing a practical test, they still flop because there's no mastery yet in articulation. So any skill that you have used and you have played with and you have done stuff with, you know how to articulate it. So that's one dimension of assessing. Another one is skillful, intelligent questions. And these are some of the things that we hope to, and if you join us, we hope that you join us at the People Management Accelerator, would coach on how do you ask questions, right? How do you ask questions that don't look awkward, right? There's a card game that we made that we use for interviewing internally. It was created for fun, but now we're seeing that people are even using it to interview. It's called the You Discover Me game. You check our website, you will see. It has 5 dimensions, and then we pick one, and then we just, okay, what's your reasoning? Like, what do you think? Just 2 options, movies or novels. You would be amazed what comes out from that conversation of someone saying, I choose movies, and this is why I like movies. And then it gets you into the mind of the person easier and how they think, what powers they're thinking, what drives them, what motivates them, faster than saying, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or what drives you? Or what motivates you? Or where are you going? Intelligent questioning, right? Asking intelligent questions, right? Asking unassuming questions, not I don't know. I don't want to use a very harsh word, but like not questions that even the candidate has been practicing. So even the way we interview, right, needs to be upskilled. If not, we'll keep bringing in people that don't align with our culture, that don't align with our culture, and our work style, and then it becomes problematic, right? Because even if you don't optimize that, you realize that even onboarding, there are talents and there are talents. There are talents that self-onboard. And it shows from the beginning. They're not waiting for it to be told. They're asking questions and getting direction. They are doing it. That's the kind of talent that you want if you are a leader, because you know that this one is going to take the stress off me. Thank God. Thank God. That's the kind of talent that you want, right? So it's optimizing even your interview skills, your hiring skills, your understanding behavior. And I said it before, I'll say it again. Now, when you're managing people, you're not managing outcomes and outputs. You're managing the behavior that produces that. So you need to know the behaviors. You need to master those behaviors. You need to be, at least you need to understand what they look like. And so when it's happening, you know exactly how to attack. And that's what the program I mentioned is going to be about. So I hope that I answered your question. I saw Miracle's hand was up. I'd like to give you the mic, Miracle, please. Is Miracle still here? I can't see Miracle anymore. Okay, I can see Miracle now. Miracle, please, I've unmuted your mic. Kindly share with us.
All right. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, I don't know if anyone can actually hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So what I wanted to say, I wanted to add to what she said, because I'm a product designer and though I haven't gotten a job, but when I was applying, there was a way, I can't actually pick the company, but there was some certain questions they asked that as I'm listening to this talk, it kind of reminded me that those questions, they're actually trying to pick out people according to their unique character, not just by their CV or whatever. So those kind of questions where they will just ask you, the one I can remember is they will ask you that if that there is no resource, but the management needs you to carry out this certain action and there's a deadline, how would you do it without no resources? How would you do it? So I think it's questions like that. They would ask you, are you a doer kind of person? They would ask you, are you a doer kind of person? And a lot more, but it's just few I can't remember because it has been long. I've taken the job interview. So they usually include it during when you're about to fill a job application or maybe whatever, but yeah, they usually include it.
Thank you so much, Miracle, for sharing. Am I muted? Okay, I'm not muted. Thank you, Miracle, for sharing. Good one. So any other questions, any other contributions, but are we seeing, okay, I'm seeing some comments in the chat. I want to quickly read that. Oh, I see a question here. Does the work culture have an impact on the different work styles in the long run? So yeah, nature, nurture, these things always come work hand in hand, in the sense that I remember we hired someone. So in our organization as Udemy, we actually do, forget the fact that we're creating these tools. Before we decided to make it, I say, okay, it seems that this is now a prevalent problem. Let's try to automate it and make it public. We always use behavioral data to hire. I remember there was a product designer that it was after 1 year of working with us, like I said, in fact, let me even see your CV. And then when I saw his CV, I said, if we ever looked at this CV, you would not have gotten this job at all, because this CV is just crap. Like, there's nothing inside, right? Literally. And we will not be able to spot him if we are dependent, if we had relied on very mainstream or traditional methods, because it wouldn't have been productive, right? And he was a high performing person till date. Like, he's a high performing person. I can sign anything for him anywhere. I know he will deliver. That's the kind of gem that we're able to find. Now, we then had another talent that I was concerned about based on the data that I had seen. First, in his personality archetype, he's highly spontaneous, and he was going to be working in our product. I lead product innovation at Udemy. So if you're going to be working in the product development team, it is required, right? Everybody there is systematic. That part of their behavior is potent, because you're going to be dealing with algorithms and models that it can carry you where you don't know. And you have to sit down and follow through with those problems, right? It requires you to sit down for long hours, even sometimes more, just to figure out, how is this AI going to work? How is this AI going to calculate? How is this AI going to find the solution? So how are we going to solve for X? And this person was highly spontaneous. So they said, okay, that should please take a chance, and I said, for every single time I disobeyed this data set, I always regret it. But well, let's see. Since the interview panel said let's go ahead, okay, let's go ahead. He came in as an intern anyway, so maybe that was what made it easier. So it's not mainstream, so he's an intern. So let's see how it goes. In terms of like managing him, it was a bit problematic at first, because we'll say, Alex, we need this thing done. Alex is taking what should take 3 days. Alex is taking 1 week. And that's because he's spontaneous and he has a creative spirit. So he has to think through. And I'm like, bro, nobody has time for this, But guess what? By month 6 of his interning with us, so we usually do talent audits, and then I check my personality, I check my behavioral patterns just by creature of habits, like habitually. So am I still sane? Am I still okay? I notice when I'm not sane, I know that, okay, something's right. I need to backtrack. I've altered myself significantly. I need to, we checked him in 6 months. Majority of his personality traits had shifted. Now, was he still on the same spectrum? Yes, but like there was significant change. So he wasn't extreme spontaneous. He was now like mid-range. And that was because of the work environment that he was finding himself, right? The work environment that he was, and he saw that it wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't punishment. It was good for him. So the more he associated positivity with certain behavioral traits, the more he opened up himself to embracing those work styles, or to embracing those behaviors. And then it improved him for better. Now Alex is doing amazing, right? He no longer works with us, but he's doing amazing. He's done with school now. He's doing amazing where he is, right? And that's because, he came into an environment that, so nature and nurture, it works hand in hand. But does it still mean that Alex will not be spontaneous? There will be situations where he'll be spontaneous, but now he has learned how to find a balance between being systematic and spontaneous. He has mastered that part of his personality, that it will not jeopardize his productivity or jeopardize the productivity of his team members if he's in such a work environment, or even in a highly spontaneous work environment. He'll be able to bring balance and cohesion within that team. So yeah. So let me respond to this. Susan is saying, no energy to shout. So no, I don't. I just tell my vision and I expect them to catch up and follow through, being the principal partner. But I write queries after 2 to 3 warnings. All right. How do you deal with perpetual latecomers that is productive in your firm? I love the paradox of this. The person is a latecomer, but is performing. It's not that it's not performing. The person is performing his duties, right? Or is a latecomer. Pardon me. Please, we'll soon round up. So if this session has been impactful, I want to see it in the chat. So tell me, hi pause, give us a hi. Hi pause, let's hear from you. You know, has this been useful to you? Has this been productive for you? Do you want to know about people management accelerator and all of that? So I will soon round up, but let me answer Susan's question. So how do you deal with a latecomer that is productive in your firm using this behavioral stuff? Now, first is to understand what are the elements of his behavior. What are those elements? What are those things that are triggering it, right? It could be that so there are many things. So this is like, let me see if I can give an overview of all the 5 dimensions. The first thing I would check for is what is his motivation for work. And there are about like 9 different spectrums that we have identified consistently over the years that really drive people's performance. If it's a case of him being autonomy driven, right, that can help him produce your best work, then thinking through and knowing that what are my trade-offs, right? You need to ask yourself, what is my trade-off, right? If this person is getting this work done versus he's not getting the work done, is it that he's needed in the office or he's not needed in the office? Sometimes it could be that another thing that could be happening is that the work environment that their day-to-day reality, they may not share it within the office, but it might be something that is affecting their ability to comply with certain rules. Could it be that he's staying far away? Could it be that he's working late? Could it be that it's the middle of the night, that's why he's most productive? Could it be that when he's in the office, he's not able to get anything done? But because he has to come to the office, so the place where he's most comfortable to get things done is at home. So he has to ramp up everything that he needs to do so that when he gets to the office, he can at least muster some productivity. So I think that with understanding people and the different dynamics of how they work would help us design an inclusive workplace. And so some of the rules that we as leaders even overemphasize on, we realize that if we just tweak things a little, right, it will unlock productivity a lot better. So is the emphasis on what does coming late mean for, I think the question I mean, there's so many layers to these things, right? And there are layers, I don't know what your company setup is, but what does coming late mean for you? Is it that he's coming late? Is it affecting multiple outcomes? What does coming late means for your organization, Susan? That would be a good question to ask, to understand, and then start to weigh the implication of his coming late and understanding where he is, what's going on, and the realities, and then making a combination from there. Can one change their work style, or you're stuck with it for life? That's a very interesting question. Do I have the full answer? I have some parts of the answer. And I remember saying at the beginning of this is human behavior is complex. And because humans are created as species that by default, we know how to metamorphose, right? It will mean that there will be many people and many personas over our lifetimes. I don't believe in the school of thought that people are static. I believe that things make people shift. Situations make people adapt. And it depends on what's the extent, what's the surrounding thing. But now when it becomes problematic is when there's constant altering away from the core and the essence, that you don't recognize yourself. And once that starts to happen, you lose the essence, the flavor of what makes you most productive. You lose the flavor of what makes you most efficient. And so I won't say that you were stuck with one, right, all the rest of your life. No. I would say that you would always shift, form, evolve as things demand. But when it becomes, you must always watch out for times when it starts to become dangerous. And that's when you cannot touch base. You don't feel in touch with your core and the essence, the things that make you produce the most effective and efficient work. When you start to lose touch with it, you know that you're already approaching danger and I need to retreat. Instantly. Okay, so I hope I answered some of that question. Susan, let me know. I would like to understand your organizational context to really help. That's the late comer employee. But let me just read some comments and I will go into the last part of sharing what the people management accelerator is, the structure for it, how you can take advantage of it. And, so thank you, Samuel. I have learned a lot from this session, and it just validated my interest in talent management and optimization for product teams. That's great. To add my own context to Susan's question, if on a remote job, a support staff comes in late and works only 2 hours but covers a lot of support tickets, but obviously it lengthens the time that clients get away, I feel like they spend very little time in the call for their pay. So that context is very different. I mean, once it starts to, so there are 3 angles I always say when it comes to decision making, right? And I said, how you know a high performing talent is they think about how does this affect client experience? How does it affect team experience? How does it affect bottom line? Anybody can think consistently in these 3 areas consistently, they are good. So that talent that is coming late does not understand how his coming late affects customer and client experience and needs to be educated, needs to be sat down properly, and taken through a process, right? Oh, thank you, Susan. So Susan is saying, thank you. This was plenty good use of your time. I'm so happy that it was a good use of your time. I mean, this is Saturday morning well spent. Please don't forget to fill the feedback form that we shared with you if you're attending. Everybody, you're going to get it in your DM, right on this call. Please take time to feel it. So let's talk a bit more about the people management accelerator and what's in it for you, right? So we have 3 options that you can take advantage of, whichever capacity you find yourself, right? For us really is to optimize. We know that once people know better, people can optimize their people better. Once you can optimize people better, the results, right, are always better. Thank you, LK. I'm happy to hear that this has helped you put a lot into context the issues in your team. And I've achieved my objective, which is to really get you all to have perspective, good perspective. So I'd like to invite you once again to the People Management Accelerator program. We're going to be running the first cohort in January, and we'd like you to join. We have 2 key options if you're a professional and you want to attend individually for yourself. The first option enables you within 3 days, right? Within a 3 days boot camp, we're going to treat all of these behavioral elements. You're going to understand people's psychology. You're going to understand your own psychology as a person, why you behave the way you do, how it affects your work outcomes and outputs, how you can synchronize yourself so that you can have a productive year. You can have a productive year by working with the right people, have a productive year by working with the right team, and also aligning your processes to do so. How can you, we're also looking at how do you understand the people in your team. Now, we just talked about the work style, which is just one dimension out of 6. Imagine when we then dig deep into all of, there's such a rich information inside there. See, I've been in this for 10 years. Udemy, as a company, spent about 5 to 6 years in R&D to just really understand human behavior and how it affects workplace productivity. So trust me when I say you're in the right place, you're with the right people. So see, don't know. That's all I can say. And there will be a lot of case studies, and you also have access to replay. So it's not a case of you attend and that's it, right? You also have access to replay. So if you choose to just learn, if you just want to learn and you just want to gain knowledge, right, that's the option for you. The reinforcement option, right, which is the second option, is a lot more immersive, right? So you take part in a 3 days boot camp, and then for the next 4 weeks, we are hand-holding you, taking you through different types of challenges that you can use to optimize your team and realign your team for optimal success, right? So we're working with you as a leader to do so, right? And then we're doing that, week on week, different challenges that you can use, right? This pragmatic stuff. I'm not good, but talking to you about things that we have handled, things that we have handled, the shege that we've seen in the street, how we manipulated the shege, how we came out of it, these are real things for us, and I'm glad that you're here. So you have the reinforcement plan. So the Learn plan, we have an early bird offer lasting to the 31st of December, so that's 30K. If you want to optimize yourself, just learn, and you just want to learn and go on. If you want an immersive experience of you learn and then you have challenges that are administered to you on a weekly for the next 4 weeks after learning to reinforce your knowledge, because learning is one thing, mastering it is another thing. Developing the habits and processes is a completely different thing, right? So the early bird for reinforcement plan is 100,000 naira. And then if you hear your organization, you think that you need Udemy to come in and optimize your people in terms of having a holistic for your employees and for your line managers. One of the things we always have said and we've always seen is that the quality of the managers affects the performance of even the team members, right? So you want to optimize even your managers as well. You want to spend time to optimize that. So you as a leader, if you represent an organization here, optimizing your managers, optimizing your team members, reach out to us. We'll be happy to have a conversation with you on what that would look like and what would work best for your team. The community is still open if you want to leave, but if the free community is there, you can always ask questions, you can always get banter, we can always, if anything's happening to you, if they're showing you shege, just type it inside there, don't worry. I'm sure all of us on this call, with the insights that we've had right now and the insights we'll be hearing, occasionally, we'll be able to work together and resolve issues together. So I want to thank everyone for staying up to this point. Every single one of us, thank you so, so much. For staying back. I would like to take some other, if you have questions as regards the People Management Accelerator, please ask. Because we want to do quality work, we're not taking a large number, so we're just giving it to about 30 to 50 people, depending on the plan, either learn or reinforcement, whichever one you want. So we're keeping it that simple, right? Because qualitative inputs affect quantitative outcomes, and we want more quantitative outcomes. So we want to put in quality work as well. Okay, a question here. Can a job seeker attend this meeting? Oh, that's a conversation we can have. Definitely drop a message with either Pedro or testimony, and then we can have a conversation on what that will look like for you. If you're a job seeker, looking for senior roles or leadership roles, then the People Management Accelerator will definitely be good for you, right, to take on. Good for you to take on. I'm seeing another feedback here, an insightful session, especially with the various talents and how to manage them. For Susan's question, the company needs to understand why the high performer is coming late, and he or she needs to know how it affects the team and works out. Yeah, so they might be working in isolation, right? It can be performing, but if they're not high performing, if they don't know that your actions affect bottom line, your actions affect customer experience, your actions affect team experience. And if nobody has been able to make a sound argument to him, maybe people have made sound arguments to him, maybe it wasn't just said, maybe an objective party needs to come in and have a sound argument with him as regards that, maybe he would see. So those are things to we can talk about, after this. Thank you so much, Samuel. Thank you, everyone. Please, let's take our time to fill in our feedback form. And we are begging you, please fill our feedback. And I hope that when we're going to have the next masterclass or next meetup, we'll be gracious to have everyone who volunteers to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, who agrees with me that other people need to hear this, other people need to learn about this. It will just reduce everybody's headache altogether. Fantastic. Fantastic. Does anybody want to share a vocal feedback? Just for Zoom purpose. A vocal feedback. Reading it is good, but hearing it is also better. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Thank you for sharing with us this morning. Okay, I can see someone's hand is raised. Samuel. Samuel. Thank you, Samuel. You've been such a good contributor today.
All right. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the session.
Hi, Sam. Your line is breaking. Can't hear you. Oh. Okay, I think we lost Samuel there. Okay, I can see Hannah. Sorry. Okay, Hannah, you have the floor. Okay.
Wow.
Hannah, you have the floor.
Thank you very much for putting this together. It's really amazing being here this morning. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Saturday spent, and I really wish I was able to put my team together to be on this call. It's really very, very good one. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We hope we'll be able to come to your team and help in whatever way we can.
I hope so.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you. Naomi, you have the floor. Kindly share.
Good afternoon. It was honestly, this session was very, very amazeballs for me, actually. Seeing that I've heard you speak a couple of times, and when I saw this, I was like, I have to do everything possible to attend. And I'm glad that it was worth my time. And in fact, this was like so much value packed for me. And it's the fact that it even helped me understand my work style. Sort of like opened my insights to okay how different people work. I was even through this lesson or through this teaching, I was able to even discover various work styles for other people because I worked with the CEO one time like that, and he was very good at visualizing, but he doesn't follow through. He doesn't do anything. He just tells you, "This is my idea. This is what I want to. This is what It just gingers you and then does nothing at all." So it just really made me understand perspective, like from the whole working style and all of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. That's good feedback. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else who wants to share your vocal feedback with us before we wrap it up? Okay, I can see LK. LK, you have the floor.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hi, hi, Udemy. Thank you for the session. Quite insightful, quite eye-opening. For me, I just want to mention that like this training has not just given me some tools for managing now and future. But the funny thing is, it has also helped me to understand some mistakes, or should I even call it like hassles in the past, where I have team members and they are behaving a certain way and it's just driving me mad. And in fact, at the end of the month, when I'm paying this person, I'm angry because I feel like I'm not getting value for what I'm paying for. Sometimes, most times I have to sack them, but like this helps me get perspective. And in fact, currently there is a member of my team. He's on contract. His contract will expire about a few months from now. But you see, this guy has been working with me for a while. But when before pre-COVID, when we had like a physical office, I didn't even see this trait in him. He's what I would call after today's session now, a prioritizer. I didn't see this thing in him. But after COVID, when we went remote and everybody had to manage themselves, there was nobody to breathe down your neck and say, do this right now also. Then the personality trait now came out. We could be working on a project and this guy would just disappear. You call, you would do everything. He's not reachable. He's not callable, nothing. He will not give any reports. We have tools for reporting, tools for tracking everything. He will not use anything. At the end of the day, he will just drop the work. He has finished it. All your anger, everything, you go and check the work you've done perfectly and everything. You can't say shit. Sorry for my language. You can't say anything. You just have to keep quiet again.
Complain. You don't be like, oh, you'll be frustrated.
In the long run, you are telling him that, oh, you should have followed process. But in the long run, he has delivered everything, probably more than even those that were following the process. So you just don't know what to say. But like, I think at the end of the day, of this session, I'm probably able to understand someone like that more. decide to be more, for me, I've already even decided to like, from what you said, like, okay, probably be patient, make him realize some other things, but it just makes me realize at the end of the day that I'm not crazy and he's not crazy too. It's just personalities.
Personality differences.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. That was a good story. Wow. Wow. Thank you for speaking. Really do appreciate your sharing experience. And I'm happy that you also were able to get perspective on what's going on within your organization, within your team. I mean, there's so much to learn. There's so much to understand. But then you understand some things. When some talents are doing, you just be like, have you finished? Oh yeah, come. You just manage people seamlessly. Yes. So Fifi, thank you. Thank you, LK. So Fifi, you have the floor.
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, very good to see and hear you. Thanks for a very wonderful, insightful, very valuable session. Sometimes you go on a call or you go on a session like this and you just realize there's a lot of hype, but there's so much depth of knowledge here from everything I've heard, and the way you've answered the question, like you're on to a good thing here, and I really appreciate it that you're kind of blazing this trail, with people management. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. For someone like me, for instance, a person who has always worked alone, or this kind of solo person that gets things done all by myself. And then when I spoke about that burning out, you can imagine how why I said I was also okay, except for the keep forgetting the last one. But I'm like 3 out of 4 of these things. I guess because I've had to work alone by myself a lot, so I find expressions in all these different types. So for me, this is going to be really valuable. I look forward to being able to join the bootcamp, go the extra mile, learn more about how be able to work with other people better, and then be able to appreciate their style. Then because it kind of makes me nervous. I'm thinking about being founder, hopefully very soon, working. And this part of me, there's this part of me that knows that I'm not great at working with other people. So just knowing that there are people who can help me to become more, be able to work better, be able to do this well. Like it's not like I'll just thrown in and do what I can and maybe possibly fail and think, oh, yeah, failure. So just to have people like you, or to have this organization here behind me, being able to show me the road, help me. Because sometimes these things, a lot of times people don't, there are things that people expect to just know normally or know naturally. So if you're not the person that can build a team, like okay, you're a failure, that's the end. I think everybody else can do it. So I just appreciate that you're there to hold our hands, help us get to kind of validate the fact that yes, validate that this is a problem, this can be a gap, and that there is a systematic way to fill it. So thanks very much. Valuable session. Thank you.
Thank you, Fifi. We appreciate that you joined us today. We appreciate that you spent your time with us today. We appreciate everyone, right, for sharing their hearts, sharing in the chat section, sharing, vocally. Those who were able to make it, those who weren't able to make it. I'm sure by the time they watch, listen to the recording, I'm sure they'll be like, wow, this was really rich. I myself, who is sharing, I've also learned as I'm sharing. So around it's been a win-win. It would be great to share more time and share more time with each and every one of us, to really dig deep and help us, right? There's nothing that cannot be optimized. The truth is, we do not know. And when we do not know, right, we make mistakes that could be avoided. And so that's the value of the experiences that we bring to the table and the experiences that we're also going to be sharing in the People Management Accelerator, as well as through tools and services on the group. So I look forward to engaging with everyone